Hello, welcome to Gardener's World. I'm sowing some rocket. This is wild rocket rather than salad rocket, but both can be sown now. In fact, it's a really good time because they do like mild weather. They grow best sort of March and April and then again September, October. So by sowing the seed now, it'll germinate and then start to grow as the nights cool down, and we'll be ready to plant out in September and enjoy right through till Christmas. And if you've got a greenhouse or a cold frame or even a cloche, you can actually keep rocket seeds going well into next spring. Now, wild rocket is a perennial, and you can cut the leaves and they will grow back, and I've kept plants going for years, and it's one of my favourite salads of all. So it's a good thing to do as we're now hitting the middle of August. Now, coming up, we go to the Brecon Beacons to visit a man who has been making his garden for over 40 years.
If you'd have said to me I would have created something like this, I would have never have believed you.
And we also rejoin Frances on her allotment, where she's planting insect-friendly flowers alongside the vegetables.
What do you think?
It's amazing. I'm really impressed with it.
And I shall be checking up on my bees and also revealing the source of the plants from the last batch of honey. I've let this strip of grass grow long, except for a path down the middle. I want to encourage as many insects as possible, and the best way to do that is A, have water, which we've got, and B, have long grass. And you don't need a big space. You can have a wildflower meadow, if you want to call it that, in a square metre, or as I've done here, just a strip either side of a path. And into that, I've been planting bulbs and also herbaceous perennials, as well as sowing seed. But if you want a wildflower meadow, you have to manage it like a meadow. And essentially that means letting it grow long until mid or late summer, and then cut it. And you'll know when. It's when it starts to look a little bit raggedy. And at that point, cut it right to the ground. Now, it doesn't matter what you cut it with. A pair of shears will do if it's not very big. Or you can use a big grass cutter. A normal mower probably won't be enough. Go to any tool hire place and you can hire a big heavy-duty mower for a day and you can get a lot done. When you cut long grass, and whatever you cut it with, inevitably you'll find that after the first pass, quite a lot of it has lain flat, and you start to rake it up and there's a lot of grass left there. So don't worry about that. You will need to cut it twice, sometimes just occasionally, if it's really thick stuff, even 3 times. But the important thing is that you rake it up. You mustn't leave any grass on the ground. The reason for that is because it will rot down, feed into the soil, and the plant that will benefit most is more grass. And very quickly, grass can compete. What? What are you doing? I'm talking to the nation. Sorry about this, folks, bear with me. Now go away, go on. Right, as we were. Grass very quickly outcompetes other wildflowers or other interesting plants. So for a wildflower meadow or anything approximating to it, rake it all up. Now you can see I'm scratching away and causing dust to fly, which shows there's a lot of bare soil. And the reason I want that is because I want the seeds I'm about to sow to make contact with soil. That is the secret of getting wildflower seeds to germinate in a wildflower meadow. Now, in this day and age, one of the sort of great developments that the internet has helped is that wildflower seed is not only available from many different sources, it's available in mixes that will suit almost any situation. Take that out. Now what we've got in here is an assortment of flowers. Some of them annuals, some of them perennials. And if you look, it's a lovely, physically beautiful mixture of seeds with yarrow and knapweed and vetches. I love the way that in the palm of my hand, I have a flowering meadow. It's a big mistake to sow it too thickly. You'll gain nothing. Divide it up and sow the seed thinly. It's as simple as that. Just sprinkle a few seeds and make sure they have contact. And if you want to mow this every week so it reverts to lawn for the rest of summer, that's fine. It'll do no harm at all. And if you want it to grow back to be long grass, that's fine too. But you'll need to repeat this process, the cutting and the raking, before we go into winter. So it starts spring with short grass. Now you don't need a big garden to enjoy a wildflower meadow. In fact, you don't need a big garden to enjoy any aspect of gardening. And we were really inspired by our Every Space Counts competition. That's over now and there's a rightful winner. But we want to go on celebrating all the pleasures and joys of smaller gardens. And we went to visit one in the Midlands that is packed with plants and ideas.
My name's Paul. I live in a small village north of Birmingham. We moved into the property in 2015. When we moved in, the garden was pretty unloved. There was a small shed at the top corner. There was a few shrubs and the odd tree. I had this old conservatory base that we had to take out. So that was the first thing we did. And then I took the old shed out, the shrubs, and basically I stripped the whole garden to a blank canvas. Then I realised that the soil quality was really, really poor. So I had 15 tonnes of really good quality topsoil brought in, which they dropped on the drive at the front, and I had to wheelbarrow through, and it took me at least, I think it was about 4 days to do it. So the design, I started with a patio, which was a half-moon shape, and I've tried to replicate that through all the borders, and also with the grass, and it sweeps around the house, and also with the arbours. I've built those myself from scratch. They're a bit of an unusual shape, but I think they work quite well in my garden. I've always been interested in cottage-style gardens, which I've tried to create myself here. I've got a massive range of different sorts of perennial plants, and I haven't got a theme with a colour. I like to mix all the colours up. Probably my favourite plants are Thalictrum. I have about 7 varieties in the garden. My 2 favourites would be Thalictrum Ann and Thalictrum Elin, which grow really tall, and I feel that tall plants in a very small garden work really well. I've got my dahlias. I also grow quite a few sanguisorbas, which are an amazing plant, which always drum up a lot of interest when people come to see the garden. I think it's really important to work out what's flowering in the garden and keeping the garden going. So a good tip that I've learned myself is to go around other people's gardens at different times of years and see what's flowering and what's looking good at that time of year, and that's how I've sort of created my garden. At the start of the season we have sort of snowdrops and daffodils. Moving through to the midsummer we have sort of all the sanguisorbas and phloxes, anything you can possibly think of perennial is going great at that time of year. And then going off to the back of the year is my dahlias. In very early spring I put a lot of bloodfish and bone meal down. In fact, in this garden I've put about 30 kilos down this year, and I feel that that's why everything is flourishing in the garden this year. I also do a lot of staking, which takes a tremendous amount of time. I think it takes me about a month to put the stakes in. There's probably about 800 stakes in the garden. The key thing with staking is to get them in as early as you possibly can before there's any real growth on the plants. I deadhead every night. I spend about an hour deadheading the whole garden. I think it's very important to spend the time doing this for the plant's health and to encourage new flowers. I spend a lot of time in the evenings when the children are in bed, and sometimes I can come in at sort of 11 o'clock at night. I have a massive passion for my lawn. The key to a nice lawn is a bit of feed every sort of fortnight. Probably in the palm of your hand, that's all you need. Water it quite a lot. Believe it or not, I do cut it every day, much to my wife's dismay. I also use an old roller mower, which is absolutely fantastic. Really, really noisy. I think it upsets quite a few of the neighbours, but it gives this great effect in the garden. I haven't got a greenhouse, purely because I haven't got enough room for a greenhouse now with the planting I've got in the garden. So when plants get too large in the garden, I dig them up, I take root cuttings off them and plant the original plant back in. I save quite a lot of seeds. I like to save my delphinium seeds and phylloxera seeds, which are hardier seeds, which I pot on and grow on and sell for the National Gardening Scheme. Garden means everything to me. I've got a massive passion for it, and I enjoy having people round and entertaining friends, and seeing that other people enjoy it is where I get my kick from, really. And I'm very, very proud of it.
It really isn't the size that matters with a garden. It's the love that you put in and get back from it. But with a smaller garden, you do have to choose your plants carefully. And one of the best small garden trees, I think, is a crabapple. There are lots of different types, but they will all flower in spring and then bear fruit that is decorative in autumn. But therein lies a slight catch, because look at this. I've kept this on just to show you one of the problems that is likely to happen this year. This crab has got masses of fruit because we had a really good late spring. Then we've had this hot, dry summer, so the plants are a bit brittle. And then the other day we had a big storm, lots of rain, lots of wind. And what's happened is the weight of the fruit on the branches have meant that they've torn and broken. And the really pertinent point is that that is going to happen more and more between now and autumn. And if you've got fruit trees in your garden of any kind, and particularly if they're young trees, prop them up between now and harvest time, so that if we do get a big wind or storm, you're not going to snap the tree and ruin it. And really, all I can do to this is cut it off. That's a Ghana. And likewise with this one. And then I'm going to have to get a longer stake and stake that up like that so it's supported and start again. That'll do the trick for now, and we'll check up on how it's doing in a couple of weeks. However, I'm not on the border for my crabapple because I've got another job on hand. What I really want to do here is dig up and divide one of these nepetas. It might seem odd to be digging up anything in the border at this time of year, and you'd think we'd want all the growth that we can to see us through into autumn. But now is a really good time to dig up those perennials that you like and to divide them, pot them up and grow them on for next year. The key is to choose a plant that is a real doer. Make sure it's something that's proven its worth in your garden, because then you know that the new plants are going to do well too. Okay, pop that in a trug. From a clump like that, I should get at least a dozen new plants. What you will need to do is cut it back. So before I begin, I'm going to take all this top growth off. And that might seem a little radical, but we want to leave as little stress on the roots that remain as possible. Now, some plants divide by cutting them, if they've got fleshy roots. Others will pull apart relatively easily, and Nepeta is one of this group. Right, let's tease that out. The idea with this is to break it down into as small units as you possibly can. Now, the reason I'm going to this trouble of making them as small as possible is that I want quantity. And that changes the way that you design a new garden. You could start having them running through borders. You could have great big drifts and clumps. You could start to think differently about the way that you garden. Now I have here pots and a special potting compost. This is deliberately rather a poor compost. There's lots of coir in it, there's grit, there's a little bit of garden soil to add bacteria. And the reason for that is that I don't want a flush of top growth. I want the roots to slowly and steadily establish. So, it's just a process of potting them all up and trimming them to fit. So there where we have rather a big root system, it is these very fine roots that are doing all the feeding. So what I will do is I'm going to cut that off there and reduce this down like that, and then that should fit into a small pot. If I just put these somewhere slightly sheltered, obviously water them and keep them watered, they definitely don't need to be in a greenhouse or a cold frame. The roots will establish before winter kicks in, and then plant them out next April and they will take off. And you can do this with almost any herbaceous perennial. Well, there you are. I've used up just about half of a modest clump, created 18 new plants. I'll probably get another 18 from it. So that's going to be well over 30 plants of the Peter Six Hills giant. Now, over the years, and we've been here for over a quarter of a century, we have created tens of thousands of plants, not just by division, but by seed and cutting. And that's one of the joys in being in a garden for a long time. You see plants through from the very earliest stage, sometimes into large trees. But we have been at Longmeadow for only a fraction of the time that Keith Brown has been in his garden in Carmarthenshire.
In the garden, there's so many things that are special to you. Putting things together as small plants, but to actually wait to see them reach their full size, I get a chill up my spine, genuinely I do, because it just is a fruition of a lot of ideas. My name is Keith Brown. Welcome to Kilgwyn Lodge. I've lived here with Moira, my partner. We both love gardening. It's located on the edge of the Brecon Beacons National Park in the lovely Towie Valley in Carmarthenshire. It's just a lovely place to live and to garden. Well, the garden is substantially different now from what it was when we first came here in the 1970s. And it's now very much a designed garden. Over the years, we've tried to make it an oasis by planting trees around the perimeter. Some were here already. There's a beech tree that was a sapling when we first came here, and it's now 40 foot tall, and it's one of the star trees in the garden. As you walk down the garden, there's a range of shrubs incorporated in the border design. It's not just herbaceous border, particularly strong on hydrangeas, which are coming into their peak by the end of July. And then as you walk down the garden on a gentle slope, you're walking towards a large water lily pond with a range of native insects and wildlife. I always feel a garden without water is a garden without soul. Nothing gives you greater pleasure than something you've grown yourself, whether it's grown in the garden or whether it's grown as a challenge in the polytunnel, because many of the things I've grown myself, I've had to learn how to germinate them properly, how to grow them on. There's a lot of challenges to face, and over the years which I've been propagating plants, probably coming up towards 20 years, I must have grown a good few thousand every year. Well, this is the nerve centre to the garden. I do a lot of propagation, very often from seed, and it's just magical to grow stuff from seed because you don't know whether it's going to come true to its parents or whether it's going to be something that's never been known before and you'll have something very special. And it can take up to a year or 2 years, and in the case of Cardiocrinum giganteum, the giant Himalayan lily, it can take 7 or even 8 years. When I flowered my first one, I got quite emotional to have grown something like that, and the thrill it gave me to do so. It's probably one of my highlights of my gardening year and my gardening life, and I get that with almost all plants. When I first came to Kilgrin Lodge, there were 4 plants in the garden which I still enjoy having, and I call them the 4 H's. Hardy geraniums, a bit of a cheat that one, hemerocallis, hostas, and hellebore. And this is a 5th addition to them since those early days. This is hydrangea aspera sargentiana from China. A very felty leaf, glorious head of flower, and I believe it's true that this has only ever been found once in the wild, and all the plants that are in gardens now or for sale in garden centres all came from that one plant that was found in China all those many years ago. The garden makes me feel pretty proud in a way, really, but not in a show-off sort of way, just the fact that we've put it together ourselves. If you'd have said to me 40 years ago I would have created something like this, I would have never believed you. Gardening's about giving and sharing, I think, and that's hopefully what we've been able to do.
There is definitely something special about a long-term relationship with a garden. Now, something that has changed in the last 5 or 10 years of this garden is that I have come to love ferns. Before then, I thought they were rather dull and all looked pretty much the same, sort of vaguely green and frondy. But now I love the subtle differences, and we plant a lot of them here, and you can see here in the Lime Walk, we have fringed the whole length of it with Dryopteris felix mass. And at this time of year, when you lift up the fronds and look underneath, they become really interesting. Because it is covered in what people loosely call spores. But that actually only hints at the whole truth. Because these are sori, and each one of these sori contains sporangia. And each one of those contains up to 64 spores. But they don't make another fern. They make an intermediary plant called a prothallus. And this is small, it's heart-shaped, and has a male and a female sex organ. And that will fertilize itself, and then in the fullness of time will throw up a leaf and will be the beginning of a new Dryopteris. And that whole process can take anything from about 6 months to about 3 or 4 years. So it's complicated, it's mysterious, and there is something primeval about it. I always feel that ferns are plants that could have been crushed under the feet of the dinosaurs. I'm going to plant out some Florence fennel, appropriately because the leaves are distinctly feathery and frond-like. And fennel is one of those vegetables that, when it goes right, seems very straightforward, but can quite easily go wrong. It really doesn't like being cold. And that stresses it and checks it. And once that happens to Florence fennel, it bolts. It makes stalks with flower heads rather than overlapping leaves which form what we call the bulb, which isn't a bulb at all, which is the base of the plant that we want to cultivate. So if you can get hold of any plants now, then it's fine to plant them out and they'll be ready to harvest sort of late September into October. And raised beds are really good for them because they like heat, they like plenty of moisture, and they like good drainage. And this sort of spacing, I guess it's roughly sort of somewhere between 8 and 10 inches, is about right. It means that each plant can get good and large. You get these lovely, juicy, crisp, overlapping bases to the leaves. Now, still to come, Mark Lane visits the warmest garden in Britain and celebrates the joys of all things Mediterranean. And I shall be getting some help and guidance on how to deal with a bit of a crisis with my bees. But first, Adam has been helping a young couple in Leicestershire establish the groundwork, the infrastructure of their garden. And we join him as he pays his third visit.
It's been about 2 months since I started working with Amit and Vibhuti to help create a garden for their family. They had been in their new build for about 18 months and were feeling overwhelmed about starting a garden from scratch. The biggest problem was how to reduce the impact of the towering wall and fence at the back of the garden. The new design created a new focus, pulling your eye across the space by adding a second terrace. To kick things off, we lifted the original paving to prepare for the new terraces, plus created 2 distinctive levels. Since that visit, Amit has put in some hard graft, getting in the sleepers for the retaining wall, but he's been struggling with an injured hand. So a few weeks ago I went back to help him with the rest of the landscaping. We laid most of the paving, put in a brick path and built some steps. Now I'm back to finish the job. I tell you what, I'm chuffed to pieces.
Yeah, we have done well.
I mean, I think today we want to get the hard landscaping done, shall we?
Definitely.
And if we do really well, maybe start prepping this lawn. Right, come on, let's get on. Come on, come. We're going to start with the upper terrace, and we're reusing the old slabs to keep the cost down. Right, mate, let's get this line set up, and then we can get those last few slabs in, can't we?
Yeah.
You just tie that off.
Is that okay?
When laying paving, it really is all in the preparation. Use a line to lay your slabs to. To prepare the ground, put in 100mm of hardcore, which will need to be compacted. Do you know, I still love doing this.
I do enjoy it.
Is that a bit sad?
No, that's good.
Is it? Good.
Yeah.
Then lay your paving on a 6-to-1 mix of sharp sand and cement. Make sure you lay your paving on a full bed of mortar. So what I'm doing to start with is actually just rocking it a little bit in place, which will just start to key it down on that to cement. And then with a mallet, or actually even a back of a lump hammer, you just start to work across the slab to get it down to that final level. Just keep your hand on it, because this sounds a bit strange, but you can actually feel it going down into place. To ensure a consistent pointing gap between the slabs, use tile spacers. There you go. Done. Over by the house, the new grey brick picks up on the existing ones in the wall. Amit's brushing in kiln-dried sand between them, which means the water will still drain through. While he's busy, I'm going to point the lower terrace with a 5-to-1 soft sand and cement mix. So as I'm brushing it in and working it in, making sure that every single crevice is full with the mix. And really this is a soft sand, so it's going right down in those mixes. And at the end of the day, what I'll do is I'll put a very fine mist over the top of that with the hose. And I mean a fine mist, not washing, because obviously then it starts to come out and go all over the paving. And what that mist will do is actually just make this go absolutely solid. The final bit of the landscaping is to create the top of the brick step. I've laid the edges first on a mortar mix, but the middle is laid on sharp sand. And use a screed board to level the sand before I put in the final bricks. The landscaping is all but done. and that feels really good. Now it's time to rotivate the soil and get some organic matter in. Then we can have a chat about plants, and I've brought along some pictures for inspiration. First, we're looking at climbers to cover the back wall. First one we've got there is the clematis, which you see a whole array of flowers. Some of them are spring, some of them are autumn. Jasmine, which is lovely, and that will give you scent. And then honeysuckles, again, good grower. And then you've got the good old wisteria.
I just want a bit of wildlife into the garden, so some of these plants are gonna attract wildlife, bees, and just a bit. That'd be fantastic.
And they will, mate.
Which of these flowers will flower for the longest?
I would, looking at it, I would say choose the months, I suppose, when you're going to really be out and enjoy the garden. What do you think that's going to be?
June, July, August?
So maybe what we try and do is we pick the climbers around, you know, one that's going to look good in June, one that's going to look good in July, and one that's going to look good in August. Yeah? Vibuti and Amit have a huge wall to cover, so they can choose some quite vigorous plants. But in a smaller space, some of these plants could take over and create problems. So now we move on to the trees. So we've got to think about what we want shade-wise, what we want them to block, so the shape of them in a sense, and then what we want ornamentally. You know, do we want flowers, do we want berries, do we want bark? And what I've got here at the moment is a choice of something like a Prunus cerula, which is a lovely cherry, got fantastic bark on it, absolutely beautiful bark. And then we go on to something like an Amelanchier, which is a lovely sort of smaller tree, fantastic spring flower, super autumn colour. And then we've got a mix of birches, which again, you know, are giving you more dapple shade.
The one I'm instantly drawn to, I'm sure you can guess, is this one.
Is the Amelanchier.
Because it's got flowers.
Yeah, that's fine though. So if we went for the Prunus cerula, Tibetan cherry, that would give us a lovely bark, Amelanchier, and then maybe we add another one to it that hopefully gives you flowers. Check the final height of the tree and canopy shape, so it works well in the space, plus really gives you the effect you're after. Some trees can have strong root systems, so make sure they're planted appropriate distance from walls and foundations. Shrubs are really useful as they can give a structural backbone to the garden, plus some wonderful seasonal interest. So when I talk about structure of gardens and getting it right, really what I'm talking about is the trees and the shrubs. We've got things like roses, so we've got colour. That's a pittosporum, and we've got something like a myrtle, which has got a variegated foliage, but it's got a lovely flower on it, and it's got a scent.
I like the idea of having mass of white, and then the odd shot of colour like the fuchsias or the corals. They're the kind of colours that I definitely like.
To add more colour, there are a huge range of herbaceous perennials to choose from, and they can be planted amongst the shrubs. So, that sounds like we've got a plan, yeah?
Yes.
Good. Next time, plant in and get the turf down.
Brilliant.
The basic groundwork of any garden is always more work than you think it's going to be, but it is important, because if you get that right, you don't have to think about it very much ever again, and everything else follows on from it. Now, I've almost got these in, and just when I've watered them in, they'll be fine. It's interesting to compare these with herb fennel, because you don't want these to develop a flower stalk, whereas, of course, herb fennel, which is a very close relative, is all about the flower stalk. And now, at Longmeadow, the fennel is 10, 12 feet tall, these enormous great stems topped with bright yellow umbels of flower. They're truly magnificent. But I don't want flower stems from these. I just want a lovely, fleshy basil growth, which is so brilliant with tomatoes or avocado or just in a crunchy green salad. Now, we join Frances on her allotment, where all that hard graft of a wet and muddy spring is beginning to pay dividends.
It's been nearly 6 months since Luke and I started on our allotment journey. And in that time, I feel like we've made so much headway. Our allotment started as a patch of claggy clay covered in weeds. And look at it now! We got to work in all weathers, building our raised beds, planting fruit trees, and creating a herb garden. All this during one of the hottest heat waves in living memory. Last time, we decided to put camera traps down to see what kind of wildlife we're working with. I'm really curious to see what creatures we're sharing our allotment with.
There's a cat here that just stares right at the camera.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Ooh, something running. Is that another cat?
No, maybe it could be a back end of a fox. Very urban wildlife we've got
This is
going on.
very urban wildlife. Ooh, look, it's magpies.
Oh, wow. What are they up to?
They're on your brassicas.
Oh, so it's them that's eating the brassicas?
It's them that are eating the brassicas.
Oh, I thought it was the pigeons.
Well, I think maybe putting some netting up to really keep them out, some robust netting.
Birds are always going to be a problem on allotments. There are plenty of ways to deter them, but netting is definitely one of the most effective methods. If you use a net, make sure you pick one with small holes. If they're too big, some small birds could get stuck or tangled up inside.
It's nice to see that the old sweet corns are starting to
The
get
cobs
haircuts.
are forming,
Yeah.
aren't they? It's brilliant.
I mean, it surprised me. We've got this whole plot, and I was like, yeah, there's loads of space, and we're going to grow loads of stuff. But as soon as you start going, OK, well, actually, we can get 3 rows of sweet corn in here, and we can get 4 chickpea plants in there, and all of a sudden you're like, kind of run out of space, and really quickly. And I've actually managed to kind of wiggle myself a little bit more land on the plot.
Have you?
I don't know if you want to take a look.
Yeah, definitely.
Brilliant. So, this is our extension.
That's amazing. And it's level.
I know, no more terracing, right? Which is great. These are kind of a rough plan that I've drawn up. And I really want it to be a nature area.
Yeah.
So I've gone for a pollinator bed, kind of a bit for a pond, and then lots of rows of salad and more space. And I really want a globe artichoke.
Oh, that will look so nice.
Yeah, so yeah, that's kind of my plan. Where do you think would be a good place to start?
Should we cut the beds out?
Let's do it.
Cool.
These past months, I've met a whole host of different allotment holders and have learned so much. Today, I'm keen to discover more about how allotments can not only be hotspots for pollinators, but can also be their homes too. I'm meeting Quentin Alsop, who's been keeping bees on his allotment plot for the last 4 years.
How many bees would live in one hive?
It depends on the time of year, really. Anything from, say, 15, 20,000 up to 50,000 in a big, strong colony in the peak of summer.
That's so many.
Yeah.
So if you want to keep bees on an allotment like this, then how do you go about that?
I would recommend going on a course so you understand bees and understand their behaviour. One of the recommendations from the British Beekeeping Association is that if you are going to keep bees on allotment, you need to put them out the way into a corner so they're causing the least bother to people. You need to get them to go fly up and over the people's heads. So if you can put a fence like we've got around here so they get over 2 metres above people's head height.
And are there any particular plants that you grow that are great for beekeeping?
I would encourage you to grow early season things like hellebores and snowdrops, because when they come out of their hibernation cluster, that kind of source of pollen and nectar is really important in the start of the year. So I would go for that. But you really want to spread, because it's not just honeybees on allotment. There's one honeybee in the UK. There are 25 bumblebees and 225 different types of solitary bees, and it's really all the other kind of pollinators that you need to be encouraging.
Well, I'm going to be planting a lot of flowers of different kinds on the allotment, which has to surely be a good thing for pollinators.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Make sure you've got a broad spectrum to appeal to all the different types.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for showing me these. Shall I put them back to bed?
You can do.
you all right?
Flowers.
Nice. How was your visit to the bees?
Yeah, really interesting. And the guy was lovely and gave me some honey to take away.
Oh, that's wicked.
It's a really nice thing to keep part of your garden or your allotment for wildlife. And people often think that means keeping things weedy, wildflowers that don't look very neat, but it doesn't need to do that. So things like cottage garden plants are a really nice way of bringing as much wildlife as you can without compromising on the aesthetic. How's that looking from further back?
It's looking really nice.
This delphinium is a rather spectacular plant for us, but for bees, it really stands out. This blue and white is like a helipad to draw them in, so it's fantastic for pollinating insects. This is a yarrow, Achillea millefolium. This flower is made up of hundreds of tiny daisy flowers, and it's in the daisy family, which means it's fantastic at bringing in bees and pollinators. Flowers last for absolutely ages as cut flowers or here in the ground. What do you think?
It's amazing. I'm really impressed with it.
It's really good, isn't it? What I've tried to do is bring in something for all the different kinds of insects that there are. And people always forget night pollinators, so things like moths and night insects. So there's things like phlox, which are fantastic. Anything that really smells strongly at night time, or often if it's really light in colour, the flower, then they can see it in low light levels.
Okay, brilliant.
So that will be fantastic for bringing in moths.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm glad we're covering for everyone. It's like an insect minibar.
Exactly, keep them all busy. Looks great though.
Yeah, no, I'm really impressed. Thank you, man.
No worries. It's good. It's been a tough day here, but it's really satisfying knowing that there are now flowers that will bring in pollinators from everywhere, because at the end of the day, an allotment is about produce, but it's also about all the other creatures that come here and use this space.
I think Francis's point about planting plants that will attract night-flying insects, particularly moths, is really pertinent. And things like this phlox are absolutely ideal. And of course, they're fantastic for humans too. The phlox, Nicotiana sylvestris, night-scented stock, all have wonderful, rich scent. And as the light fades round about 8:30, 9 o'clock, not only do they start to glow, but also they release that wonderful fragrance. But I confess that I have had a big problem in the last few weeks with one of the most important insects in the garden, and those are the bees. I've got 2 beehives, and one of them, a top bar hive, was really busy and going very well until I noticed about 3 weeks ago there was a lack of activity. And I inspected and looked inside, and there were no bees there at all. They had gone. So I immediately contacted my bee mentor, Gareth, who has guided me through the whole system and instructed me, and asked him to come over and explain to me what might have gone wrong. Gosh, look at that.
Do you know, Monty, it's so disappointing to see this, but after the winter that we had, there was a tremendous amount of bees that were lost nationally.
Right.
But
you think this is just a result of weather?
Yeah, this is something that was pretty unavoidable.
And all these combs?
Yeah, it's just
would have had a decent amount of honey in.
Yeah.
So with these top bar hives, are they slightly more prone to winter damage than a frame hive?
No. The mortality on top bars shouldn't be any higher than a frame hive.
And what's the best thing to do now? Shall we leave it open and hoping that a wild swarm moves in?
I would say it's not the prime time for swarms. So probably come 2-3 weeks' time, if we haven't got bees in here, it might be a case of trim the comb down, clean everything up and get it ready for spring.
Right. Now what about that other hive here, the frame hive, which seems to be perfectly active and healthy? This is such a different setup, isn't it? And there we are. Although there are plenty of bees there, it's not that full, is it?
No, it's not a huge colony, but having said there's not a lot of bees in there. We've got all the nice pearly white larvae in there. which is all healthy brood. So, yeah, I'd be quite happy with this.
Good, good. Beautiful.
Good enough for you
Beautiful, yeah. We've got some nice weight to it.
Yeah.
How lovely is that? Very interesting to see what the taste of that is like. I mean, one of the things that, since we started to keep bees, you realise how every batch of honey is different.
Every season it changes, but British summer honey is the honey to have.
I think we should give these guys a break.
Yeah, I think they've seen enough.
If you put it back together again, we'll have a chat in a minute.
Yeah.
You may remember that last summer I sent off some honey to the National Botanic Garden of Wales to have it analysed to see which flowers had been the source. Now, I finally got the answer back this week, and it is fascinating because at the top of the list, over 44% was camellia. And then you have Malus cotoneaster crataegus, which is 12%, choisia, 11%, and then it goes prunus, acer, quercus, salix. But the really extraordinary thing is the camellia and the choisia. And that's because we hardly grow any camellias, and we only have one choisia plant. And I was thinking, that can't be, maybe they went to the neighbour's garden. But then Gareth explained to me that with a top bar hive, they could make a bar in a week. So what we sampled was really a snapshot of 1 week in this garden. And I checked up and looked at photographs of the garden when all these various plants were in flower, and that was the middle of April. And there were camellias in flower in the writing garden, there were apples in flower here in the orchard, there was a choisia in the wildlife garden. So in fact, all the flowers nearby to the hive, they gorged on. And then as the flowers finished, they moved on. And this summer, we have all noticed in our gardens that the plants the bees have been most attracted to have been those that have enjoyed most sunshine. And Mark Lane has been to the Isle of Wight to follow that sun.
In the heat of summer, there is one classic garden style that always comes to mind. What better captures the nostalgia and feeling of those holidaying months than a Mediterranean garden? The essence of a Mediterranean garden is all about relaxation. Outdoor living is at its heart. Shaded havens provide space for entertaining friends and family. Fragrant plants fill the air with their heady scents, spilling onto weathered tiles and patios. Today, I've come to Ventnor Botanic Gardens on the Isle of Wight, one of the best examples of a Mediterranean garden in the UK. And that's because it's Britain's hottest garden. Chris Kidd is the very lucky curator in charge. Chris, this is an absolutely beautiful garden. How on earth did you create it on UK soil?
The great advantage that we have here in the Undercliff at Ventnor is that we have the climatic conditions perfect for the Mediterranean. So by putting these plants in which love growing in these conditions, you get a very good picture of what the Med truly looks like.
So people who may not have this sort of climate where they live, can they still create a Mediterranean garden?
Absolutely. The range of plants which is available to grow in the garden at home from the Mediterranean is very wide. You can find perennials, bulbs, shrubs, grasses, all the things which will fit together that can be grown throughout the country.
There's a real lovely sort of wildness to the garden and a real sort of natural rhythm. And what I really love are these wonderful boulders and rocks that you sort of position between the plants. What's the reasoning for those?
Where we're trying to recreate the wild, when you see the Mediterranean, there are spaces between the plants which are rocky, where no plants can grow. And it's important for us to put those in there to replicate it. Just like in music, where you've got the notes, you need the spaces between the notes to turn it into music. It's the same with our garden. We need the empty spaces between the plants to make the garden come alive.
Personally, this is one of my absolute favourite garden styles. So how do you transform your own outdoor space into a slice of the Med? In the Mediterranean, the garden is part of long-standing family traditions. It's all about living al fresco. So get in the mood for eating, socialising and just relaxing in the great outdoors. And find yourself a perfect spot for a little seating area or a small patio. And then why not add height with a pergola and real verdant planting for that shady corner. And you'll soon be feeling that wonderful Mediterranean vibe. Hard landscaping is a key element of this style, so it works brilliantly for anyone averse to lawn maintenance. Grass can be replaced with easygoing gravel or paving, imbuing the garden with a range of warm, natural tones. And don't forget to have fun with personal touches, such as sculpture, pots, or a water feature. Do think about the conditions. Mediterranean plants love really well-drained soil, but you can use plenty of grit or sand to help with this. So the success or failure of your Mediterranean style is down to the choice of plants that you make. So here's my guide to the VIPs, the very important plants that you'll need to get going. The true icon of the Mediterranean is the olive tree. But there are other ways to create height and drama. Whenever I think about Mediterranean plants, I think about these beautiful echiums. These vertical spires reaching for the sky with pale blue flowers. They really like a warm climate, so they're best grown down in the south. But if you want that vertical interest, then why not try Acanthus mollis? It'll grow anywhere. It is a bit of a thug and it does like to spread in the garden, but it's definitely worth the commitment. Inject a zing of colour into your scheme. Salvia is another fragrant plant, and these delicate flowers add a kaleidoscope of colour. But my absolute favourite is glorious lavender. There are now so many different varieties, you're guaranteed to find one that suits your garden and your conditions. And of course, the best thing of all, bees absolutely love it. There is something really irresistible about the Mediterranean style, with its casual elegance and its perfumed charm. And the great thing is, it can be super low maintenance, which means you can enjoy your garden without all the hard work.
Well, if ever there was a summer to enjoy the pleasures of Mediterranean gardening, it's been this one. And some plants in the garden have performed better than they have done for years and years. And basil is absolutely one of them. I grow it normally in my greenhouse. And I get really good results from the heat that it gets under glass, and we then make it into pesto. I also always sow some outside, but it never does very well. It tends to get leathery and yellow when it gets cold, and then the taste goes. Well, this year, this summer, the outdoor basil has been as good as, if not better, than any I've grown indoors. We've got a great big bed of it against the greenhouse. I've grown some in the trough here, and it has loved every minute of the blazing sun. And if you cut it just above a leaf, fairly near the base, there's a real chance that you'll get regrowth and maybe another crop. Well, that should be enough to make a really good batch of fresh pesto. But if you don't grow basil and you don't want to make pesto, here are some other jobs you can do this weekend. The hot summer has meant that lavender has flowered and gone to seed earlier than normal, so now it's time to cut back. Cut back hard, but not right into old wood. And then the regrowth will have time to harden off before the cold weather begins. If you grow tomatoes, all your attention now should be into developing the fruit rather than the plants. And nothing will be more effective to do this than using a high potash feed. I'm using homemade comfrey, but a liquid seaweed applied once a week will do the job just as well. Cane fruits such as raspberries and tayberries have finished their summer crop. They bear their fruit on the previous season's growth. So all these old fruiting canes can now be cut back down to the ground. And then the new green growth that is left behind can be tied in and pruned accordingly, so it is ready for the winter and to carry next year's harvest. When you're making pesto, it's the leaves that you want, not the stems. And there is no magic recipe to pesto. Every family, in Italy certainly, had its own version. And traditionally you use a pestle and mortar and grind it. And what we do is fill a kitchen mixer with leaves, add a couple of cloves of good garlic, and add some parmesan and pine nuts, and then give it a whiz. And when it's mixed, start to drizzle in some oil, and you'll need quite a lot. And that's it. It's fantastic with pasta or with potatoes, and it freezes really well. But I have to say, at this time of year, it's a treat to eat it absolutely fresh. Now that's it for today, but I'll see you back here at Longmeadow next time. So until then, bye-bye.